Marvel Shang-Chi actor Simu Liu is a complete idiot, for lack of a better term. And I'm not just criticizing him because he says stuff I disagree with. I'm criticizing him because he says stuff without thinking about it. And as a result, there's negative repercussions to everyone involved with it. And he just doesn't sound intelligent. He says stuff that a stupid person might think sounds smart. But then you start thinking about it for a second and it's like, okay, yeah, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So there's this clip going around on social media. It's been going around for the last few days where he was one of the investors on the Canadian version of the show Shark Tank. This show's called Dragon's Den, which a small business was looking to expand their boba tea business. And this is what Simu Liu had to say about that.
I am studying your can and I am looking for anything that tells me where boba came from.
I mean, I don't know what he's looking for. It's a can for a drink. Does he expect them to, I don't know, have a Wikipedia page entry on boba or something like that? I mean, it's just a drink. They don't necessarily need to say this is where it came from.
And where boba came from is Taiwan.
Yes, Taiwan.
You know, I started this venture company for a lot of reasons, but really primarily to uplift minority entrepreneurs. And not only do I...
In other words, he says, I don't want to invest in any white people's business because I'm racist against white people. He might not be saying that specifically, but that's essentially what he means. Because just imagine for a second if this was a white investor and it was a black person coming in or an Asian person coming in, and they're saying, I wanted to uplift and help out white people and basically, presumably not people of your race and ethnicity. People would have an issue with that, but for some reason he thinks or at least he's comfortable enough just saying that publicly. I don't know if he realizes how racist he sounds or he's just okay with sounding incredibly racist.
I feel like this is not happening here, but that I would be uplifting a business that is profiting off of something that feels so dear to my cultural heritage.
Okay, and first of all, it's not even part of his cultural heritage because just going over to his Wikipedia entry is he's a Canadian citizen and he was born in China. That's not from Taiwan at last I checked, unless, of course, because he's Chinese, he thinks China owns Taiwan, which in all realisticness, China is pretty much just West Taiwan to begin with. The people who understand history would probably know that little fact, but still, no, it's not part of his cultural heritage. It's part of Taiwan's cultural heritage. So maybe if there was a Taiwanese person on there, they could probably be critical over that and say that's cultural appropriation, but I'm sure most of them wouldn't care about it, or at least anyone who's sensible wouldn't care about other people using their product. And that's the stupidest thing about all this is the whole cultural appropriation aspect of it. Here, I'm just going to fast forward a little bit after they leave because he's just kind of going on about cultural appropriation, other stuff like that. Then even his other investors on there start criticizing him over his decision and the way he rationalized it.
It's sad how successful this business is. It makes me sad that people are, they're drinking boba with a raccoon with a sun.
It doesn't mean that they don't have the opportunity to change and do that.
That's true, but there has to be a willingness, and I have to be able to invest in these founders knowing that, that change is possible.
They didn't say no. The collaboration that they've had to this point is with their supplier in Taiwan. And if nobody else has told them that before, you can't put that all on them.
In other words, he's the only one who actually cares about it. Even their people that they work with in Taiwan don't care what this company is doing. It's like, yeah, you want to sell our product? Yeah, fine, sell our product. It's fine. You want us to help supply you? We'll do that. But this non-Taiwanese person is saying like, on behalf of Taiwan, I'm saying this is cultural appropriation. He has as much of a reason to criticize the origin of this as I do. I mean, because I'm not going to go on and be like, oh, they're culturally appropriating Asian stuff. I'm not comfortable with that. It's because I'm not from Taiwan, but neither is Simu Liu. So we both don't have any reason to be upset about cultural appropriation. Just stay to your own lane, dude. And obviously he's getting a lot of pushback on social media. This post I saw kind of going around and saying that Simu Liu would cancel a boba startup for cultural appropriation as a higher ranking Asian didn't become a professional actor. I'm casting a counterspell and inviting people of every race and creed to partake in Asian culture. Okay, one Asian says you can't do this, another one says you can, so I guess you can now or something like that. I like this one. Counterspell here. I had my comment on there, but there was just a lot of other comments. This is something I wasn't aware of. All I knew him from was just stock photos beforehand. But apparently he also played a Korean on TV. So to him, he just sees Asians as Asians, which is, if you actually know how Asian people are in Asian cultures, they don't view all their cultures as a monolith. They don't think of things as an Asian culture. A Chinese person will think of them as Chinese, and other Asian groups, a Japanese person, the same thing. Same with Koreans. In fact, a lot of these groups don't necessarily even like each other, so they don't want to be compared and fall under the same umbrella. But since he's Canadian and not really steeped in Asian culture, at least not as much as he's trying to let on, he either doesn't know that, or he's just thinking that he can hijack all these other cultures and just claim them as his own because they look somewhat like him, or they're from the same region of the world as what he was originally born from. The ownership has to be Asian claim is funny because are we sure that's where the value accrual is happening? What if the Taiwanese manufacturer has a higher margins and takes home more money in total? Yep, that's a good point. As an Asian, I've always felt that other cultures learning and adopting practices from my culture is a good thing. That actually is. You want to share cultures. You don't just want to isolate cultures unless it's from Western cultures, and you want to import in the third world and let them take over and basically erase the culture that was already there to begin with. You'll get people probably like Simu Liu who will actually say like Western people, white people don't actually have a culture, so they're allowed to be taken over in that sense. I applaud you for this. While that they're apologizing, yeah, it is kind of bad that the company was trying to give this apology on behalf of, or just trying to say like, oh, we're sorry, this is what we did, and other things. We didn't know that we were doing this. They should have just taken the approach of like, kick rocks. If you don't like our product, if you don't want to support our product, that's fine. You're allowed to do that, but they don't have to actually apologize because they've done nothing to apologize for. They saw a market for a product, so they decided to sell the product. No one was upset about us until some privileged actor decided to mouth off about his racial ideology. But it got even worse, and it even forced Simu Liu to apologize. And it wasn't necessarily so bad because he was, not necessarily because he was getting pushback, although he has been getting a lot of pushback on social media. The apology from him ultimately stemmed from people who support him giving that company death threats. Now, I'm just going to say this. He's not responsible for what people who support him say on social media. So if people are given death threats, and I haven't personally seen the receipts, so you can take them with a pinch of salt when there's claims that this is going around. But still, the point is he's not responsible for what they're saying, but still, he did start this. He actually shined a light on this company and said, from people who share my political ideology, these people are bad people. And as a result, they have been getting death threats. So which Simu Liu felt that it was necessary to address it specifically. I want to say that I think we hit a really important discussion about cultural appropriation, what it is, how is something exploitive, rather kind of paying homage and paying respect. When is that line crossed? And in that conversation, by the way, I've experienced a massive wave of positivity and support from people from every community. And I just think that's really incredible, and I really appreciate that. He then went on to say, on the flip side, I've been made aware that business owners have received a lot of death threats and harassment and otherwise just kind of bullying and dogpiling. And I just want to say that full stop, it's never okay to make threats. It's never okay to bully and harass online. And then I'm in agreement with him on that one, and kind of in the same vein, I would say people shouldn't go and bully and dogpile and actually even make death threats to Simu Liu, even though he made some stupid statements right here. And I'm not saying he's responsible for sicking the mob on this company right now. A lot of people could actually see it as such. So I would say just leave him alone in this matter. Do what we're doing right now. Just talk about him, mock him, and say why we think he's wrong, and then leave it at that. But don't actually make threats against him. First of all, that's illegal. And also, second of all, it just makes people who disagree with him look bad, because if there's one person who makes a threat at him, he'll just start saying that too. It's like, oh, look, and I'm being threatened for sharing my opinion and other things like that on social media. They'll try to take one case and just extrapolate that and say any criticism is just people who are making threats against him. So that's why it's also not a productive thing to do. The Barbie actor noted that he doesn't want the legacy of this segment to be pitchforks and people fearing for their safety. I think we're starting to lose the plot of what ultimately the positive energy of what this is, which is let's educate people. Let's make the world a better place. Let's make people aware that certain things aren't okay from a cultural perspective. Perhaps there's something to that statement, but he's a bit overly sensitive about it because in this segment, he was basically just saying that people who aren't Asian shouldn't be allowed to sell a product from Taiwan because they're not from Taiwan. And I don't think that's okay. I think anyone should be able to sell any product that they want to sell. A lot of people on social media were kind of sharing that view, as I pointed out. And I think his perspective on this one is really dumb and it does deserve mockery. But I will reiterate that I think it was wrong for that company to try to apologize and appease the outrage mob, because when you do that, it's kind of like negotiating with terrorists. They're not going to stop there. You might think if you're a company that's getting harassed and getting death threats made against you online, that if you just apologize, it'll all go away. But all that means is they sense blood in the water and they're going to come after you whenever they want to, I don't know, whenever they're outraged or something like that. The best thing you can do for those type of people is just ignore them or just be antagonistic towards them. Maybe not antagonistic towards them, but just say we're not apologizing and then just kind of leave it at that. Eventually they'll just get bored and move on to something else and leave you alone entirely. So that's probably what the company should have done. Simu Liu shouldn't have made his stupid remarks about this, but let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.